Hey friends, thanks once again for tuning into the TCS Digital Connect. We hope you're finding our podcast series useful and informative.
Hello, folks, and welcome back to another interesting episode of the TCS Digital Connect. Today on our show, we have Mr. Ranjeet Vaishnav. He's the Director, Utilities Solution and Business Transformation. Ranjeet has about over 25 years of industry experience across business consulting, technical sales, solution architecture, and project management. He has also led major transformation projects for utilities customers in the IoT space. And today we will understand from Ranjeet more about the utilities sector and how it is shaping up for the future. So without further ado, let's dive into our chat and let's welcome Ranjeet on the show. Thank you, Ranjeet. Thanks for coming over. And how are you doing today?
Thank you, Tanvi. Good to meet with you. I'm doing fine. How are you?
Doing good too. Okay, Ranjeet, for starters, if we go back a little in time, um, you started your career as an electrical engineer and you've been working in IT for over 20 years now. So, can you talk about this shift a little bit and what kind of opportunities are there for students from core engineering background?
Sure. That's a nice question. So let me start off by saying this. It's been a very interesting journey for me. When I started off as a graduate engineer trainee, I worked in a captive power plant for a petrochemical complex. This experience was invaluable. I got to see directly how IT enables business. So the place I was working for, there was a lot of construction work happening at this site. The petrochemical complex was expanding at a very rapid pace. There were thousands of people working 24/7. And then I used to look at how this whole work is being managed. There were IT applications being used to manage the contractors who are coming in every day, the several hundred of employees that would come work in different shifts. There was design work happening. There was construction work happening. There was IT being used everywhere. And I myself got an opportunity to see software at work directly, to run the power station where I was working, to control the boilers, to control the turbines, manage electricity distribution, to manage work orders and operations and maintenance. So this kind of motivated me to be on the vendor side of things, to implement such solutions rather than being just a user of the same. So if I look back at my journey, though I started off as a core electrical engineer working in the core electrical engineering domain, I found the segue to IT as a natural extension of my work. And when I started working with TCS, I find TCS to be a platform which provides opportunities for people with diverse set of knowledge and skills to come and work together and solve problems for our customers. And not only for our customers, but for the communities that we work in. As you would have seen, TCS is organized by industry verticals. So for example, I work with the utilities business unit. My team and I work on a diverse range of problem statements that range from pure technology problem statements like migration of an in-premise data center to the cloud, or implementing a middleware solution, or developing a mobile app for asset inspections, to core domain-oriented solutions such as forecasting load for a distribution company, or bringing situational awareness into the operations of a regional electricity grid. So that's been kind of my journey over the 20 years. It's been very exciting, and I'm enjoying it.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more with you there. You've had a really exciting career path. So now to talk more about, the 25 years or 25 over 25 years that you've spent in consulting and R&D across this energy and utility sector. Can you briefly talk about to our listeners, what does this industry comprise of and what segments do companies from this sector serve?
Sure. So this sector comprises of what we call utility companies. Now, these are a category of companies that provide us with the basic amenities, such as supply of electricity, water, or manage the sewer or the wastewater, distribute gas. Many people in India are only waking up to the use of gas in domestic use, but in countries like Europe, several countries in Europe and the US, gas is used for heating besides cooking. So distribution of gas is also considered as a utility business. There are companies that offer waste management services. Sometimes they are also considered as a part of this segment. Now, utility companies may be owned by customers that they serve, so they are publicly owned, or customer-owned utilities. Sometimes they are owned by a city or the municipality. These are smaller utility companies. Or in many cases, they are owned by the state, as is the case in most states of India, the state electricity boards, as they were known as earlier. And in many cases, the utilities are owned by stockholders, or they are investor owned utilities that are publicly traded on a stock exchange. If I give an example, in India, it is Tata Power. Tata Power is a private utility company. Um, these utilities often operate as legal monopolies, which means that they do not compete in a marketplace. They have a defined service territory where they offer their services. They can earn profit but because utility services are considered to be part of public services landscape, they are an extremely regulated business, which means that in order to ensure fair pricing and to protect the interests of the customers, utilities fall under an oversight of what we know as regulatory commissions. So this is how broadly the companies that operate in this sector can be described as.
Thanks, Ranjeet. Thanks for briefing our audience on that and giving the with apt examples as well. So moving forward in your profile, when I was going through it earlier, I read that you'd mentioned I work with customers and help them navigate through disruptions caused by the energy revolution and digital technologies. So, as the world is moving increasingly towards more sustainable and renewable energy sources, how is this shaping up the utilities or the energy industry?
So for almost all my career thus far, I have worked with the electricity industry, and we all know electricity is the backbone of the economy of any country, right? It
Absolutely.
empowers the people, the businesses in today's global commerce era. Transportation depends heavily on electricity. Logistics companies, water, gas, emergency services, telecom companies, even a lot of manufacturing. I mean, almost all manufacturing companies. Imagine if there is no electricity, what happens to the economy of a country? These are some of the downstream dependencies of the electricity industry. Now, the traditional electricity infrastructure, what we call it as the grid, has been in existence for over 100 years now. And if you notice that it consists of a complex network of transmission and distribution lines that connect power plants or sources of electricity generation to the ultimate customers or the consumers of that electricity. And over a period of time, this grid has grown in size, it has grown in scale, and obviously grown in complexity. This complexity, if you notice, is now compounded by environmental forces. There is a lot of talk about decarbonization, reducing emissions from power plants, because this industry has relied a lot on generating electricity using fossil fuels. So there's a lot of pressure to reduce the emissions and basically reduce the carbon footprint of this industry. There are a lot of energy efficiency initiatives that have been undertaken. And there is also a significant amount of integration of a large amount of renewable sources of energy, which is getting integrated into the grid. By renewable energy sources, I mean those that depend upon wind blowing or the sun shining, right? But the the problem is these sources of energy, while they are clean, they're also intermittent in nature. The intermittency is something which the grid had not been designed to handle. Okay. At the same time, the customers like us, you and I, who consume electricity, have been exposed to transformation in several other sectors that touch our life, right? For example, over the course of my my lifetime, I have seen how the telecom industry has transformed, right? I remember days when we didn't have a telephone at home, to the time when we had the rotary dial telephone come in, and slowly the digital push button telephones came in, and now
Telephone, yes.
we are using smartphones, right? The banking sector has transformed tremendously. I don't remember when I last visited a bank to carry out a transaction. All my transactions are done sitting at home. If I need money, I just stop by an ATM and withdraw some cash, right? Customers have been exposed to a lot of transformation in various services that they receive from other providers, and the expectation from utilities uh, also rises in parallel, right? So customers are demanding higher levels of reliability. They want better levels of service from the utility service provider. They probably want choice. In many parts of the world, uh, a consumer can switch suppliers of electricity. So there's a lot of change happening in the market. So these are the impacts that are disrupting the way the electricity industry has been organized till date, and a lot of this is being driven by development of uh, technologies, the digital technologies that have become pervasive. And because of these changes, the electricity industry is undergoing a rapid transformation from just being a static conventional system to becoming a more fluid and dynamic system, almost like an internet of energy, I would say.
Okay, that's definitely remarkable. And so, since you spoke about digital technology and the adoption or the kind of changes that a digital technology is bringing about, can you share some example on how customers are adopting to digital, and what are some of these technologies which are prominent in this particular field?
Sure. So let me give you some examples of our existing customers. I'll cite three examples, and these are projects on which TCS has been working on. So the first example is from a state where I currently live. I'm in the state of California. Uh, the one of the large investor-owned utilities in the state was very badly impacted by wildfires, and hence was subject to intense scrutiny and pressure from all quarters, not only the customers, but the regulators, the legal entities, because of the impact of wildfire that had on the population here. So they were under pressure to carry out a massive exercise to inspect their infrastructure, their transmission and distribution lines. Now, if you look at the scale, their infrastructure is spread across almost 70,000 square miles of service territory, and it consists of almost 110,000 miles of distribution lines, almost 19,000 circuit miles of transmission lines. So very massive infrastructure that has been built. What they did was, if they had to inspect these assets rapidly, uh, it was almost impossible to do it in a short amount of time using a manual intervention, right? Which they had been traditionally doing. They started exploring use of technology here. So they mounted cameras on small planes, helicopters, and started capturing images of their assets. So you fly a chopper, you take pictures and bring back those pictures. They also started flying a lot of drones to capture images of their assets. And when they captured these large amount of images, they built a platform where they applied, the computer vision or machine vision algorithms that use the latest artificial intelligence and machine learning technology. So these algorithms are able to detect what kind of an asset the picture has captured. Is there something wrong with that asset? So, for example, if it's an insulator, is there a crack on that asset? Is if there's a conductor, is it broken? So the whole uh, exercise of inspection was enabled or made more efficient by using technologies such as drones and machine vision and AI and ML algorithms. So that is one example of how um, cutting edge technology is being put to use with the utilities. The second example is very interesting, and it's closer to home. We have heard a lot about self-driving cars or autonomous cars these days, right? Everybody is in awe of electric vehicles. Companies like Tesla are,
Yes.
capturing everybody's imagination. But do you know that TCS is delivering pioneering work for a power generation company in India using IoT technologies? So what we are doing, we are actually trying to enable autonomous operation of a large thermal power station, which is a 1,000 megawatt power plant. And anybody who has looked at a 1,000 megawatt power plant will realize it's such a massive operation that consists of so many subsystems. There is coal, there is boilers, there are turbines, generators, there is a complete balance of plant. There are so many smaller ecosystems that work together to finally generate electricity. And there's a lot of manual intervention, operations and maintenance activity, a lot of people manning the control center. So there are systems to help them operate the power plant. There's a significant component of human intervention that is involved. We are trying to make this whole operation autonomous. So the machines will run the power plant and will only alert a human when possibly they want somebody to pay attention to something deviating from the normal behavior, right? So that if needed, there could be any human intervention that could be taken. So that's another example of how digital technologies are being put to use. The third, I will give an example in the space of electricity trading. And this is for a market operator in the Australia, New Zealand market. This market decided to implement changes emerging from a study that their market commission did, that they should have a 5-minute settlement as a part of their national electricity market, which means the settlement between the buy and sell trade should happen within a minute of 5-minute interval, right? Now, imagine to do this, there needs to be a very solid foundation, a technology foundation that needs to be laid. So this company has adopted a cloud-based platform which is able to process these large volumes of data that come in from various points on the electricity grid, and marry that data with the price data of the buyers and sellers, and perform settlements every 5 minutes. So this is another example of how technology has been put to use by some of our customers.
Wow, Ranjeet, some of those numbers you mentioned were mind-boggling. It is remarkable to notice how digital is transforming businesses in the energy and the utilities sector. And these are not one-off businesses or small businesses. These are large operations with multiple devices and across geographies. Thank you so much for sharing these details and these nitty-gritties about this sector with us. This will come to an end of the first part of our chat, and we will see you again in the next chat where we will focus more on the sector from a TCS and the pandemic point of view. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, friends, for tuning into the TCS Digital Connect. Eager for the next episode? Well, stay safe and stay connected at Campus Commune for more.